Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take number 2 for the day. Today, we've got awesome decks for you. I promised that I'd get this video out Sunday, so I didn't want to let anyone down. We are going to talk about how I hit infinite this season, the decks I used. This is a bunch of top 1,000 amazing decks, including decks from the Marvel Snap devs and a bundle guide. Let's get started with the deck I used at the end of last season and began climbing with this season. This deck is from the #1 player of the previous season, currently top 5 this season, Derek. This is his high evolutionary build. I started playing this in Colombia, so I don't have all the stats for it, but at the end of the season, I remembered how much I enjoyed it. It was like one of my older decks, so I hadn't seen it for a little while. It was further down on that list when you do the scroll, and so I hadn't seen it for a while, so I decided to give it a try at the end of the season, and I ended up finishing in the 900 range with it. I absolutely love this deck. This season, I went 38 and 21 with this pre-infinite. I was actually like 73, 74% with it in the 70s and 80s. It's the main deck I played through the 70s and 80s. And then I hit a rough patch with it in the 90s, which often happens if you've played enough Marvel Snap. You will hopefully recognize that, a lot of the times, the deck that sails through the 70s and 80s, in the 90s, you just need to switch it up. We'll talk about the deck I used in the 90s momentarily. Last season, I went 19 and 9 with this. Right at the end of the season, the last session at the end was 19 and 9, 16% in Infinite. This got me from the mid 1000s into the top 1000. Again, I finished around 900 on the Infinite leaderboard. When I finished my last play session the night before the season reset, I was ranked 890. So I don't know exactly where I ended up, because then I went to work and had a day of work. It was the first day of having students at school, so I was busy, but I went 19 and 9, 68%. This deck is legit to get you to infinite, to help you climb in infinite. This is a great list. For this list, Kate Bishop is great, but can be White Widow. What Kate offers that Widow doesn't, the reason she's here, is that very often your last turn play is Ajax, and then you need a second card to play with Ajax to clear out the game. Kate Bishop gives you a 1-drop that helps with that. Obviously, so does the 1-2 earlier in the game, right? The Acid Arrow is still the best. But late game, having the ability to drop either the Fill a Lane +4, the Pim Arrow, or the Grapple Arrow for an extra 3 power is huge in games you don't have the Demon or Abomination, because, that's how draw works in Marvel Snap. Cassandra Nova is not important here. Cassandra Nova is an extra way to get a couple negative points if you don't see Hazmat, but what Cassandra Nova really honestly is a concession to arishem still sort of existing. Cassandra Nova is just a cube stealer in that matchup. You play her late in that game. She ends up being a thing you play around turn 5, turn 6, when you're clogging their board, when you're playing your Hazmat, and then you've just got 2 ridiculously big lanes, one with Cassandra Nova, one with Ajax, and that's usually enough to win the matchup because you're just putting a lot of pressure on all lanes with this deck. You do not need her. Polaris or Cyclops would be perfectly fine. Polaris helps you clog, Cyclops helps you get negative power on the board. Either one is acceptable. Evo, Evolutionary, Ajax, and Man-Thing are absolutely required for this list. Do not play it without those 3. Man-Thing in particular, well, Ajax is the list, right? But Man-Thing in particular is really strong here and steals lanes with very low investment. Alright, so again, my top 1k finish in the August season. This list is legit. Turn 1, you play Hood. Turn 2, you play Kate. I am perfectly fine demoning on turn 2 if I'm relatively sure that certain early plays will suggest that they don't have Killmonger, right? Like if they're dropping their Sunspot early, or if they're dropping a their own Hood, whatever, you get the idea. Then I'm comfortable demoning early. I will demon on turn 2 just fine. I will also happily Hood on turn 2, but Kate is generally speaking my turn 2 play. Turn 3, I'd much rather play a junk card than Cassandra Nova. Again, Cassandra Nova is an extra card here, not especially important. If I don't have any Clog, I'd like to get Green Goblin out. If I suspect they might have Clog, I'm trying to hold Viper as well. And Debris is often better later in the game, but you can Debris here too if you don't have much better to do. Turn 4 is usually Man-Thing, but you can also play another junk card here. And if you played Kate, you play a junk card and a 1-drop if you don't have Man-Thing. Turn 5 is ideally Hazmat and Debris. That is my favorite play. You play Debris, then you play Hazmat. You can usually clog a lane and give yourself an easy win that way by turn 5. Hazmat with the negative power is often excellent. It's very easy to throw priority here and make that an extremely powerful play. If your opponent is playing Clog, you can often Hazmat and Carnage here, and then you can drop your own Hood or Demon to get further power. And then turn 6 is completely insane because you drop Ajax, who's often a 20 power card unless the opponent has Luke Cage or has played almost nothing, along with Abomination. That's usually a 0-9 and then a 1-6. So you end up dropping like 35-ish points of power to end the game with this list. Right after this, we're going to take one more look at this. Then we're going to take a look at the deck. I had an over 90% win rate in the 90s with the deck. I'm urging everyone watching to play if they're trying to reach infinite still. One last look at this list. This is currently the list that is not a bounce list that I'm having the absolute most fun with in Marvel Snap. I think it is stellar. It plays a little bit like bounce, where you're just trying to spend early turns sort of setting up, and then you're using your second to last turn for what Hazmat works sort of like a beast here because it's making your cards cheaper, and then you'd have an explosive end game. Win a lot of cubes because you're gaining so much power late, and people have a really hard time stopping that. Hey, if you're willing to hit that sub button, I'd really appreciate it. You don't have to click off the video. Right below me, there's a little red button. It says subscribe on it. You hit that. It looks like a YouTube symbol. You hit sub and you help us grow, and we'd really appreciate it. We're trying to hit 15,000 by the end of the year, but we need all of your support to do that. It's going to be close. It's looking like it might be a realistic goal. Who would have thought? But we need your help and support to get there. We do 7 days a week of videos. We do one giant podcast a week, and then every other day has decks you can't get anywhere else. We do at least 3 decks every single day. Usually it's 4. On days like OTA or days like this, you're getting like 7 or 8 new decks in a day. No one matches us in terms of content, in terms of giving you the best things to play in Marvel Snap. So if you love Marvel Snap and want to play the best decks, please hit that sub button. Liking and commenting helps us grow if you're willing to. In addition, we do a giveaway basically at all times. We give away 10 season passes at the start of the season, and then we give 1 a week away until the last week of the season. Then we give away the 5. Again, 5 last week of the old season, 5 first week of the new season. So if you're interested in getting a free season pass, if you still don't have that season pass, at some point in this video, I'm going to ask you a question. It's on the last deck. I'm just going to tell you when it is. It's in the last deck. You answer that question. As long as you're subbed, you're entered to win a season pass. So hopefully we can give back to the community in that manner. Next up, this is the Yo Woody MJ Bounce. We actually talked about this as a theoretical deck late last week. I decided to give this a try when the other deck stopped working. I knew I was having a massively good time with Ajax, and I knew that Ajax was feeling, to me, at least a little bit like a bounce list. So I was like, well, why not just combine the two? I love Werewolf. Werewolf is one of my favorite cards. Why not a Werewolf Ajax Bounce? I've had a lot of success with these decks in the past. Woody was posting great stats with this, so I decided to give it a try in the 90s, and the results were far and above my wildest expectations. I've continued to succeed with this in High Infinite. I'm ranked top 500 right now. I landed at 292, and then immediately went to do weekend missions, and Superior Spider-Man left me not so great. I lost 16 cubes with the mill deck, and then I've won cubes. I was dead even with cubes at Superior Spider-Man. Not Superior Spider-Man, excuse me, Symbiote Spider-Man. And then I'm up cubes with everything else, but the negative 16 cubes has sort of put me on my butt a little bit. You can find Yo Woody MJ, one of the best players in the world, on Twitch at that name, if you're interested in seeing his take on this very list. So I went 13-1 in the 90s. I'm going to tell you about that one loss when we get to the next slide, but I went 13-1 in the 90s. That's insane. That's like a 92, 93% win rate. This deck felt like it was the easiest thing I've ever played in the 90s. I had my easiest infinite climb ever. It was completely wild. If you want infinite, please try this list. You know how I know that? Because I sent this to some of my friends. I sent this to Gunny. I sent this to Models. I sent this to BitTwiddle. People, longtime viewers will recognize. They all just sailed with this. This list is insanely strong. But even if you're just like, your friends just know how to play your decks, great. In 280 games, this has a 67% win rate. This list is legit. Play it. Werewolf and Ajax are the required cards here, although you do need Kate or White Widow, so hopefully you bought that Season Pass card. One of the two can be Falcon, but you're fine either way. Silver Sable and Nico are the best one-drops, particularly for bounce, but they're just, I think, the best one-drops. They can be Rocket Raccoon and Iceman. You lose a bit there, Rocket Raccoon and Spider-Ham. You lose a bit there, but the world does not end. And Cassandra Nova is, again, like Cassandra Nova is better in bounce than she is in other homes where she's just extra arishem tech. But, like, largely she's still extra arishem tech here, right? She's, if that draw 4 rocks location comes up, that's when you really play her. She is amazingly unimportant. She's a very good card, but she's not a great card, and she's not very important. Gladiator or Polaris makes sense. Gladiator because he's a 3/8 that moves your werewolf that you can play at the end of the game, and Polaris because it gives you a little bit of extra clog, and this deck has a little clog something. So, my one loss. I lost one game in High Infinite to this. I had 7 cards on the board, and I had 1 location win easily, and 1 location win easily with Ajax, and my opponent last turn threw out a Gambit, and if Gambit hit literally any card but Ajax, I would have won, and it was a 4-cuber, and Gambit missed that, hit that Ajax as the only card that could have lost me the game. That is my only loss with this in the 90s. I was like, am I going to have 100% through the 90s? And then I lost that one. I was like, all right, am I going to lose another? And no, I did not. I faced, I believe, 3 bots in the 90s, and the other wins were all people. And then I had that one utterly ridiculous loss where I lost a 1-in-7 shot with a Gambit. Otherwise, I win that game and go undefeated to Infinite with this list. This list is, again, completely insane, and it is working, again, in Infinite for me immediately. So turn 1 is Hood or Sable. Turn 2, Kate or Widow, pending your hand size. If your hand size is looking like full, like you're not going to be able to get some cards out, then Widow's better, but usually Kate. Turn 3 is Werewolf. I really like Werewolf here. Turn 4, you want Viper or Beast. If you can Hazmat and Beast on turn 5, you would much rather Viper on turn 4. Sometimes you're even Vipering off like the White Widow just for that extra little bit of clog. And again, hence the clog sub-theme. Don't hesitate to give them a cheap, low-power card if you can clog the opponent's side of the board. You're playing those with a 1-drop, obviously. Turn 5, you can drop Ajax. Reasonably often you're dropping Ajax here. If there's just a couple negative things, a negative location, whatever, if you ended up having to play like Ascension Nova, 5/9 is just fine, right? I'd prefer to Hazmat and then move Wolf with a couple cards, or drop Beast. Cool. I don't know if we should even technically call this a bounce list, just looking at it again quickly. I meant to have this thought a little bit sooner, but here we are. Beast is the only bounce card here. So, like, you're playing this as a list that can bounce, not a bounce list. Hopefully that is a distinction that makes sense. And your 2 key bounce targets. You're fine bouncing White Widow, but your 2 key bounce targets are Hood and Silver Sable. There's 2 Demons is insane, and Silver Sable as a 5 is insane. 5 really means 9 in this instance, assuming that the opponent plays the card. All right, so I like Hazmat and Beast here to move Wolf. Again, be careful to play those in different lanes so that you can end up not beasting your Wolf. That would be bad. Turn 6, if you dropped Ajax on 5, you're playing Hazmat and Shang. And be careful what order you play them in, because if you're trying to Shang a 10 and you Hazmat first, you just messed yourself up. And then you Hazmat. If you Hazmatted on turn 5, you're playing Ajax and Demon, but if you Beasted, you're playing Ajax, Demon, and a whole bunch of stuff, and you just have this insanely explosive final turn. Ajax in this case is like a stupid, never-before-seen large hit monkey. It's awesome. It's insane. In those cases, I'll often even just replay a Hood that I can't send over and be like, that -3 doesn't matter because I'm just playing like a 23 power Ajax, and the -1 on the Hood is I'm losing 1 power at the end of the day because it's moving my Werewolf. It's fundamentally what I'm trying to say. All right, right after this next bit, we're going to talk about Bounce taking over the top of the ladder. If you're interested in this list, I urge you to try it out. If you have any access to Ajax, Werewolf by Night, and Ajax and Werewolf by Night, you can play this list, right? I think you probably want White Widow or Kate Bishop, so hopefully you bought those as well. I did my best to give as many of you Kate Bishop as possible. I think Kate Bishop is a phenomenal Marvel Snap card. And if you listen to me, I told you to buy Ajax. People yelled at me. People told me I was wrong. Ajax is in an absolute ton of the top Marvel Snap decks. This is one of the best cards in the game. Hey, if you'd like to see some gameplay for this, please check out the stream team. Today, streaming, I don't know if he's still live, but King of Canada might be live as this goes live. If not, he'll have a video with this morning's decks, because there was a video this frickin' morning. He'll have a video with this morning's deck out tomorrow, and Gregor2424 will have way too many decks to cover in tomorrow's video, because guess what? Tomorrow I'm doing 2 frickin' videos too, so get yourselves ready. We got a ton of content coming from you. Make sure you hit sub to these wonderful people if you want gameplay from all of these decks. Next up, we have Crazy's Gimme Dat Bounce. This is the list that is sort of taking over the top of Infinite. The European server in particular has an absolute ton of people playing this at the top. The Snap Judgments Alliance, we have our own alliances. If you would like to join an alliance with me, the alliance I'm personally in has a bunch of free space in it right now. I'm switching between Snap Judgments Alliances. I went to our smallest one to try and drum up some extra interest in it. So if you're interested in joining an alliance with literally me, please make sure you check out the Discord link in the description to this video. I'm in the Black Dahlia Alliance right now. So this is crazy. Give me that bounce. This is taking over the top of the European leaderboard. The Snap Judgments has a competitive alliance. That competitive alliance is full of the top European players. A lot of them are playing this exact list. And this is a list that we could have seen ages ago. And I think it's a list that's going to undergo some changes relatively soon. Let's talk about the list. But first, if you'd like to see Crazy, the #1 player on the Infinite leaderboard in both March and April, back-to-back months, I believe the only person to ever do back-to-back, that is Crazy M Snap on Twitch. His name in game right now, if you'd like to check him out on the Infinite leaderboard, is Die Cavallo Enjoyer. Die Cavallo is a friend of ours, hi Die, and one of our mods. Sorry, one of his mods. He's in our alliance. All right, Kitty, Sable, Nico, Widow are all replaceable cards, and like you're just replacing them with other good cards. Iceman, Korg, Spider-Ham, Baron Mordo, Kate Bishop, any of those are perfectly fine here. You do need Hit Monkey, and you do need Wiccan for now, so hopefully you have the Monkey, Series 4 card though, and hopefully you have Wiccan for this list, although you don't need Wiccan for long. I'm relatively convinced that this is a list that would prefer to have Black Swan, even if Black Swan stays at 3-5. I think they're changing Black Swan and Hellcow's numbers. They almost have to. If you haven't been paying attention to the greater Marvel Snap discourse, Black Swan and Hellcow are both going to become activate cards. Our working assumption is that's going to happen in the patch, which is not this Thursday, but the Tuesday after that, but it could happen as soon as the OTA this Thursday. Keep your fingers crossed. Black Swan will be an activate. If Black Swan is a 3-5 activate, playing her on turn 5 means you can't activate her for turn 6. That's fine. You are never in this list really playing Wiccan on turn 5, right? I'm actually going to go back for this discussion. You're never really playing Wiccan on turn 5. Wiccan is a play exclusively on turn 4. Black Widow is a 3-5 that can be played on turn 3 or 4 as an activate. That's more flexibility, right? Wiccan on turn 4 is +6 energy for the deck. Okay, great. We've got Falcon and Beast. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially 5 or 6 extra power, and I'm pretty sure White Widow is going to become Kate Bishop. So 6, 7 extra power from that Black Swan activate. Again, that seems like it's at least comparable. Wiccan does have less power, have 2 more power than Black Swan currently does, but if you play that Black Swan with a hood, you're getting an extra at least net 3 power. Silver Sable is a net 4 power, Rocket's a net 4 power, you get that extra Kitty trigger, that extra Nico trigger, so on and so forth. Now, again, all of a sudden, we've made up for that extra power difference. I think if Black Swan stays at 3-5, she is an upgrade in this list in particular. However, even more importantly, I'm relatively sure, I don't know, it just seems likely, because they have to change Hellcow, I would bet they also finally make Black Swan a 2-drop. She was originally data mined as a 2-drop, a 2-3. I think since Beast is a 3-5, they're going to make Black Swan a 2-3. I'm praying for a 2-4, but I think they're going to make Black Swan a 2-3, which just puts it way above. If I can play Black Swan and Falcon, and then I've got that Falcon stuff ready for the next turn, or then I can like Beast the next turn and like replay them in Beast or whatever else other nonsense I would like to do. I think that's completely insane, and I think that Wiccan is in a couple days going to become Black Swan on this list. I don't think it'll be dead as a Wiccan list, I just think it'll be better as a Black Swan list. Hopefully I've explained that well. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'm reasonably sure my logic is correct here, but hey, if you see something I don't, let me know. So this deck is 63 and 50, 67% into the top 10 of the Infinite leaderboard. Last I checked, Crazy was around number 7, but he played this for a bajillion games to get to the top 10. For this list, turn 1 is Hood or Kitty. If you need a second one for turn 2, make sure you play Hood or Kitty, because Kitty will return to hand, and then you can go Kitty and like Hood on turn 2. Kitty and Sable on turn 2, whatever. If you just have a turn 2 play, then Sable is perfectly fine. Turn 2 is White Widow is generally better than 2 1s. Turn 3, Bishop is generally better than Falcon in a 1 or White Widow in a 1. And then turn 4, you would really, really like to drop Wiccan. Wiccan is a huge snap condition at turn 4, especially if you already have Hit Monkey in hand. Turn 4 is if you don't have Wiccan, you're playing ones and Falcon. And then turn 5, you really have to save Beast, particularly if you don't have Wiccan. Turn 5 must be your Beast turn. You need that reduction to not Wiccan. Otherwise, your Hitmonkey just doesn't get really big enough to win the games. So that's your real snap conditions. Can I set up a big Hitmonkey with either Wiccan or turn 5 Beast? All good? So turn 5 is you beast back whatever you can to set up for the Hitmonkey. You try and have as few big power on the board as possible so that your opponent has to sort of guess where you're going to put power out. Then turn 6 is meant to be Shadow Kings, Hitmonkey, and a bunch of free ones, ideally from Beast, but you can play Shadow King Monkey for 5, and then you still get 2 ones out with Wiccan, right? So that's 5. You'll have, 8, 3 ones out with Wiccan, which is just a big monkey, a lot of power, especially given the presence of Rocket Raccoon and Demons and Silver Sable in the list as ones that can represent far more power than 1-drop traditional unit. That's how you win with this list. It's really, really cool. And again, if you're on the European server, you've seen a lot of this list. If you're on the American server, feel free to go after this. This list has a very good matchup into, I feel like the European server is a lot of this, and the American server is a lot of mid-range Wiccan. I think this beats mid-range Wiccan fairly easily. You do have to be careful with Eliath. You often throw a priority here, and Eliath can be a challenge. But, Wiccan's a lot of power now. Beast is a lot of power now. Bishop, if you're bouncing things, gets a lot of power now. If you see that your opponent might be an Eliath deck, fight for a priority, bounce a little less, bounce a little more carefully, and try and compete in lanes. White Widow's great for that, just for the record. All right, Eternally Enraged. God, I just realized I'm not sure if I did a turn by turn for the last deck, but we ain't going nowhere because I got to record 5 videos today because we're doing 2 tomorrow, and I want to make sure I get Tuesday's video set too. And then I got to do the Patreon exclusive. Yeah, the $10 Patrons are going to get an exclusive video later on today. So Eternally Enraged is this Hulk variant, and its value is middling. For $10, this is a mid-ass bundle. 700 credit, 700 gold, 183 progress value. 170% is the baseline of okay, this is worth at least considering buying. So if you really like this variant, you can buy it. But generally speaking, where I start to recommend as, okay, really great buy is 200% progress value, and this falls well below that. I did buy this bundle, however, because I really, really, really like this Hulk. This Hulk is from a comic cover. I don't recall which off the top of my head, but I think it's gorgeous, and I like Hulk enough as a character and a concept that I decided to grab this. So, yeah. I think it fits the Hulk as a character, right? Hulk trying to hold the walls off himself just really, really seems great to me. So I bought it for that, but the value is fine. It's not really good. It's the Ghost Spider bundle is just better. Ooh. Also, the Ghost Spider bundle gives you a Series 4 card, while this gives you a Series 1 card, which seems worth knowing as well. All right, Glenn Jones played Noki Bad Cop. I did do a turn by turn for this. Now that I look at it, I remember it. So I was going to feature this in a much more prominent spot, but the great Regis Kilbin, our homie Regis, who was on the podcast 2 weeks ago, one of our patrons, just awesome human being, really big Regis fan, featured this first, and Regis is the biggest content creator in Marvel Snap, literally has the most views, most subs of anyone, so I felt like covering this in a prominent spot would be doing you all a disservice, because I'm trying to keep you ahead of the meta, and if Regis features it, this is now in the meta. I do have one thing in particular, though, I do want to call out about this deck. I think Ghost is about to be a phenomenal card. Glenn Jones playing Ghost does not surprise me. He knows where the game is going, and a lot of where the game seems to be going is a lot of bounce decks. And it's really hard to throw priority against bounce decks. If you're running Goliath, obviously you want to win priority, and that's fine. But if you're trying to run Shadow King, Killmonger, cards like that to counter bounce decks, you need Ghost. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. With that the case, actually you need Ghost or Invisible Woman, in fairness. But Invisible Woman only does it one lane, Ghost does it across the whole game. I think Ghost as a 3/5 is about to become a lot more prominent and popular card. I had a conversation with Derek about it yesterday. He agrees, number one player agrees, although he loves some janky-ass cards. We're going to talk about a Derek list tomorrow that runs Goose. He's the last player on Earth who thinks Goose is still good, but he's number 1, so it's worth at least taking into account and adding to our mental heuristics of the game that A, you can either be number 1 with anything, or B, there's more to this game than meets the eye, right? So Glenn Jones hit Infinite in a day, or 2 days, whatever it is, with this Noki list. Noki list are Loki list. I've come to use them as just sort of low-cost, low-curve stuff at this point that doesn't run any top end. He called this Bad Cop. All right, so you can find Glenn Jones, the lead designer, if you somehow didn't know that. The lead designer of all cards in Marvel Snap is Glenn Jones. Glenn_Jones_ on Twitter. He replies to a lot of people. He's a wonderful person. And hey, y'all, if you are interested in more of Glenn Jones' thoughts, he's been on the podcast. And we just finished wrapping up episode 93 of the podcast this week. So, he might be coming back relatively soon for some big round number. Hint, nudge, hint, nudge. All right, Hydra Bob can be Nightcrawler for this list. Widow or Kate can be Green Goblin. Red Guardian, Copycat, Polaris, Goblin, Gladiator, Nocturne. Again, almost all of this is replaceable. It is worth noting that this is a clog package, though, so you need Widow or Kate. You cannot do without both. And then Sage and U.S. Agent are your two needed cards. U.S. Agent, along with Strong, and Shadow King, are how you answer really big cards, and Sage is how you compete in power. So my question of the day for you is, if you could ask the lead designer of Marvel Snap one question, only one question, what would it be? I'm not saying I'm going to use any of these, but I'm also not saying I'm not going to use any of these. Hint, nudge, again. All right, turn 1, Hood over Hydra Bob. Turn 2 is Kate or Widow, depends on your hand size. Generally speaking, I prefer to get out Kate sooner, so I know if I have the Acid Arrow. Turn 3, Viper, that Hood over, or Red Guardian, or just get Ghost. Ghost, be a little careful with. Sometimes you do want Prio against like Surfer in particular. You do want Prio so that you can get like some junk in the lane that they're planning on playing their Broodin. Turn 4, Titania Clog with Viper or Widow. If you go, whatever, let's say we've got a White Widow, right? In the lane early, we try and Viper that over and we play Titania. We're going to clog that lane. Enjoy yourself. You can also Titania Clog just fine with Aster. Turn 5 is Shang and a 1 if you can, and if not, you just play some more of the clog stuff. Then turn 6 is Shadow King and Sage, or Shang and Shadow King. And then you win the game of Marvel Snap. One last look at this list. Glenn Jones, early infinite list. Gotta take a look, gotta pay attention to what the Marvel Snap devs do, right? All right, question of the day. We only got 2 today. Derek Snap asks how you know how to snap when playing bounce with so much unknown. And the answer is honest to God practice. A lot of snapping with bounce is in around turn 3 or turn 4, you should have a general idea of what your opponent is playing. I've said this before, I'm going to keep saying this. The best way to learn the meta is to pick a tier list. I am partial to Den's tier list on Marvel Snap Zone. I think Den is brilliant, and he uses a really statistical and smart approach. KM Best also has a high-level tier list that he does every Sunday over on his channel. Those are the 2 I would go with. There's an untapped one that I have to spend some more time with. I hope Interrobang takes it over, because Interro is great at knowing the Marvel Snap meta. So check a Marvel Snap tier list. Make sure you have that like in front of you and play some games of Marvel Snap. Practice predicting decks. You'll find that relatively quickly you get pretty good at predicting decks. Once you know the decks, figure out like as you've played games against them, right? Because you're going to see mostly the same decks over and over again. You'll see like 20 decks at any given time. You should have some idea of what their power output is. If you know their power output, you should also, by that point, know what your power output is. You are saying, if I have this card and this card, usually Werewolf or Monkey, and then like multiple demons or Shadow King or whatever, I can output this much power. They don't know I can output this much power. I know they can output this much power. Once you've realized that around turn 3 or turn 4, you snap. And that snap is often seems like it's out of nowhere for opponents, so they'll often stay or snap back because they don't know that you've done the math and figured out that you can beat them. And sometimes you're going to lose. They're going to have a surprise card. That's just the game of Marvel Snap. The other place you really snap often is if you have your curve, even if you think that they are a deck that can outpower you, but they're missing their curve. Snap is a deck that really punishes everything but the ideal draw from other players. So if your opponent is clearly, if they play like a Maria Hill early and they don't get a Wicked out, and you feel like you can steal Prio, they can't stop you doing the thing. So it doesn't matter if their power output would otherwise be greater than you, you're probably going to win that match. Hopefully that makes sense. If anyone else has any tips for snapping with bounce, let me know. I do know that Husky Puppies, the number 12-ish player on last season's Infinite Leaderboard, suggests bounce as the deck to play if you would like to get better at Marvel Snap. We have 2 wonderful bounce lists for you in this video. Fat Nick asks if being an ALA teacher, how the new lingo affects me, particularly from Gen Alpha. Every generation has new lingo. English is not a subject that has standard language. Do I always understand it immediately? No. I tend to ask relatively quickly, and students almost always tell me. It's not really a concern or problem because my grandfather, rest his soul, who lived through World War II and everything else, cool was a new slang word to him, obviously before I came along. But anytime anyone said cool, he'd go cool, cool, because it was so silly to him that cool was a slang word. This, like, think about how common and known and easy cool is as a word now. This isn't really a thing like this, or sorry, this is always a thing. So given how English is, I just sort of roll with the punches. They can't use it in formal pieces of writing, but they can submit it to me in informal pieces of writing, provided they are willing to provide an explanation when asked. It's, again, like, everyone acts like this is some new thing. I promise you it is not. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with honor. Thanks. I'm going to say thank you to these people relatively quickly because I got some more videos to make. Thank you to Abigail Giesland, Mandatory Burnout, Gables, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, The Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman. Check him out on YouTube and Twitch, please. Good Dog Gamer, still got your deck, my friend. Deuce Vault, Inc., I am Frostman, Jane Everett, Corwin, Primed Ryan, much love, my friend, Ryan Burke Avenue, Caretix Lee, the King of Questions, Koire, Black Dahlia, Pyrophoros, The Goat Seeker, Dent, Matt, Falcon, Quid Pro Joe, Doc T, the king of new Marvel Snap card content, who I have to record a video with, and I don't have time to yet. Fat Nick, Mr. Kerfuffle, one of our new friends' first regular video to get in a shout out. Thank you, Kerfuffle. Ginger Prime, hey Ginger, Philip Rakovich, Racko, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, X-Force V, and Skippy G. Tommy Nyquist, the winner of Snapchat's League Season 1, sponsor of 3 and 4. Season 3 just finished. Season 4 is kicking off. Make sure you check it out. King of Bros, Bruh, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Woody, Kevsey Hoda, Luna Chris, where did I lose my spot? Quantum Quinn, John Q, and Johnny McHugh. Had to stick those together. Jimmy McHugh, one of our other new friends. First major deck guide video with the shout out. Thank you, Jimmy. Clam, 8th Sage, Mod Supreme, Models, Darth, Tater, Joe P, Brian, Frickin, Kaufman, Tristan H, Martin, Jason B, J. Demitaldino, The Fuzzy Dollar Spectrum X, Hoot, Matt H, DJ Mikey, Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Mr. Craig Sterry, Jonesy, Seamus, catching up, The Great Two Ties, our friend, always, Lauren Whatevs. Make sure you check out her podcast, The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homie Min, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for right below me. It's the top 5 players on the Infinite, it's actually 6 players on the Infinite leaderboard last season. This morning's video, I got the decks they played this season, and then I predicted 5 decks that I expect to be at the top of the Infinite leaderboard come the end of this season. That's pretty cool. I hope you check that out too. No, I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you tomorrow for 2 more videos.